Hey everyone, it's Brian here from Massey's Main Entertainment. We return again next week. Now we're getting some consistency going here, guys. And we're returning for our top 5 films of each particular year between 1965 all the way up to 1979. Today's year is going to be the year of my birth, 1969. So you know it's a fantastic year already. So joined always by my buddy Doc. Doc, how's it going?
All good, buddy.
Oh, nice. Rich, who's kind of, he's already admitted that he's kind of a little bit of focus is swayed a little bit from a baseball game every once in a while. So that's fine. And then we got Randy joining us. Randy, thank you for coming. All right. So what we've been doing, guys, is we go a little round the horn style here where we rank our top 5 movies from each particular year. Like I said, we're in 1969. So we'll go 5, 5, 5, 5, and then 4, 4, 4, 4, and count it all the way down to number 1. So today's order is going to be Randy. Since you went last time, you got to lead us off this time. And then Doc, you're going to go second. Rich, you're going to go third. And I get to bat cleanup in the year of my birth. So you guys feel free to talk as much as you want, so I don't have to talk nearly as much. And that would be really a blessing to me. So let's just admit, I'd like to ask everybody to please like, sub, and comment down below. Some of our videos, they come out of the gate a little slow, but they still have this slow grind where they seem to get up to nearly 200 views. But we seem to be coming out of the gate a little slow. So please like, sub, comment, leave your top 5 movies down below, and we'll jump right into this sucker today. So, Randy, you get to lead us off here with number 5.
Well, I had said before we really got started that there's a couple of movies that are really well received that are not going to be on my list. So I got two of my favorites that I put on, as I had a couple problems with those movies, but we won't go into that. My number 5 is going to be a surprise. It's actually one of my favorite Bond films, and that's On Her Majesty's Secret Service. Peter Hunt, a longtime editor, actually got his chance to direct on this one. After 3 Sean Connery vehicles, we finally get this unknown actor model named George Lazenby, which I thought did a very good job. A lot of people put him at the bottom of the James Bond list, but I don't think so. Because in fact, he was offered like a 7-picture deal, and his agent advised him to turn it down. And I would have fired that agent. He was thinking that Bond wasn't going to last, but I guess he's kind of wrong on that one.
Wow.
But it has this great opening scene where he rescues Diana Rigg, and who drives off and leaves him, and he breaks the 4th barrier and just looks at the camera and says, "This never happened to the other guy." That's the reason I've always loved that. So it kind of plays with the Bond aura, I guess, or whatever you want to call it, and it's got one of the most interesting stories, I think, of the Bonds. It has some great skiing sequences. Plus, it has Diana Rigg, and Bond gets married. What more can you want? So that's my number 5.
Interesting. Wow. I mean, I didn't see that coming at all.
No, me neither.
No, I said, wow. All right.
Well,
Doc, what do you got at number 5?
First Pete, then repeat. On Her Majesty's Secret Service is my number 5.
You got to be kidding me.
Back to back, baby.
I can make it probably pretty short and sweet here because Randy covered probably the highlights. I would say, it's a great the skiing scene is pretty epic in that movie as well. But yeah, Diana Rigg, the opening scene, and you touched on George there. He was, let's face it, he was a good-looking guy. He's a big, solid guy and stuff like that. He played the character. In that opening scene, you can see what kind of Bond. He was a different kind of Bond than Connery, almost from the beginning when you do see him for the first time. The car getting stolen on the beach and then saves her life and off she goes and stuff. But yeah, neat little twisted stories and stuff like that. It's got the Bond flair to it. The action sequences are very Bondish and really well done, I think. And the movie, I think you're right. He gets crapped on a lot that he was the worst Bond and stuff. The guy did one off, man. It's a really good Bond flick. And I can hold it somewhere in the same regard I think you do, Randy. I think it's overlooked, and it's a keeper in the Bond series, man. That's my number 5 too, on Her Majesty's Secret Service, man.
Wow, guys, I didn't see it coming twice now. I mean, I'm out on the mat now. I got hit by both of those haymakers.
Sorry, buddy. Left-right combo.
Woo. Rich,
Very
do
good.
you have George Lazenby? No.
No, I can't say I do, but I'm going to pick one of the films I think that Randy alluded to about good reputation, but just not good enough to make his list. And I'm going to take Easy Rider, a key early independent film directed by Dennis Hopper, starring Hopper and Fonda, and one of the great supporting roles here for Jack Nicholson, his first of 12 nominations. It's a time capsule of the late 60s, the hippie movement, counterculture, all that good stuff. Some trippy sequences in the filming. These bikers making their way from the West Coast to New Orleans, and they run in, all these different charades. There's a beautiful scenery, the great soundtrack, tunes from Steppenwolf and the band and the Byrds. It's just a late 60s kind of time capsule. If you were there and of age at that time, I think the film means more to you than looking back now and saying, what the hell was that about? But I'm going to go with Easy Rider at number 5. It just cracked my list here.
Nice. All right. So now at least I feel better because we're even, because I have Easy Rider at number 5 here as well.
That's weird.
And like Rich said, I had to watch this one again. But what I like about this one, as I felt like there were it feels like there were a lot of movies about the hippie counterculture, but there never really was one that felt like it was like being done by the counterculture itself.
Right.
It's where it felt like it was really, truly real. And some of the stuff that went on in it where they were talking about, I like the conversation that they had when they were talking about the difference between freedom and theory when you're talking about, America, but then there's theory and practice. And that sometimes the rest of America views freedom in a very negative way in regards to, the differences in culture. So I thought that was a very poignant thing. I do love the soundtrack. I think that's maybe something that Tarantino might have been looking at, but also this came kind of off the heels of The Graduate, where people were figuring out, hey, music can have a really big impact on your movie. So I thought that was really cool as well. And like you said, Jack Nicholson's performance was just really kind of a standout, considering how young he was. Putting him next to Hopper and Fonda at the time, you're thinking, oh my God, is he going to be able to hold his own? And he stood right in there with those guys and held his own, proved he had the chops. So that's going to make my list at number 5. So
cool.
There we go.
All right. See,
Nice.
2 and 2.
2 and 2. I feel better now. The universe is in order. Randy, what do you got, bud?
All right, I'm going with another one that's just kind of a favorite. I loved it as a kid, and I still love it now. And that's True Grit with John Wayne. Henry Hathaway, an old pro, directed it, and it kind of plays with Wayne's image, making him more of a cantankerous, kind of this aging, cantankerous old marshal. And the whole movie is kind of almost like a fable in some ways, because you have the fantastic scene that's in a meadow with a bunch of outlaws and just John Wayne over here, and Robert Duvall's one of them. Goes like, well, he tells him he's going to take him in to arrest them, and Robert Duvall says, "I call that bold talk for a one-eyed fat man," and then John Wayne says, "Fill your hands, you son of a bitch," and puts the reins in his teeth. To me, it's still classic. It may seem a little over the top now, but I still loved it. And that's why you love the Wayne persona. But he played with it a little bit differently in this one. But I still appreciate it as an adult, and that's going to be one of my favorites, True Grit.
Excellent. Great movie.
Good one, Randy. Yeah. Well, my number 4 is going to sound like, I don't know, Rich's and Brian's number 5. So I got Easy Rider at number 4 here.
There you go.
I make it really short and sweet. Kind of like the same things you guys like, obviously the soundtrack and the vibe of what the 60s was at this time. And yes, Brian, this is the year I was born as well, buddy. So this is, nostalgic too. But, the lifestyle and everything that it talks about. And I really think Peter Fonda probably gets overlooked in some senses. Hopper did a good job with the movie, man, directing and starring in the movie as well. So I think there's a couple of really standout pieces. And Jack's, when he's on screen, it's Jack, right? So it's, like I said, Fonda is really solid in the movie, but when Jack's on screen, it's he's kind of stealing it, right? Especially his character, the way he comes off and stuff like that. So just shows you the betrayals, the drugs, and everything else that can go on. It's a '69 Thelma and Louise kind of thing, adventure almost in some senses, man. This is just it's got a different vibe to it, and I think that's what makes it really appealing to me. So, especially for the time and the era, my number 4 is Easy Rider, man.
Easy Rider. There you go.
Well,
Rich.
this time around, I've got at number 4. I've got what Randy had. I have True Grit also.
Nice.
My number 4. Great performance by John Wayne, who knocked off, the guys from Midnight Cowboy for the Oscar. They were vying against each other, John Voight and Dustin Hoffman, and Wayne slipped in there and got a career crowning achievement, I think, and deservedly so. Plays Rooster Cogburn in here. The bad guys, you got Dennis Hopper in here as one of the bad guys. I'm Robert Duvall. Cantankerous is a good word to describe his character. Very entertaining throughout. Glenn Campbell is in this movie as well. And I like this film better than the Coen Brothers remake, which came decades later. That's just my opinion. And I love the Coen Brothers, but I like the original. I just love True Grit, directed by Henry Hathaway, like Randy said, a wily veteran himself of Westerns. So I'm going to put that at number 4, True Grit.
There you go. All right. Well, Doc, you messed us all up here, buddy. I have True Grit at number 4 as well. So. I'm a huge Western fan. I'm going to be honest. I may like the Coen Brothers just a little bit more because I feel like maybe it was a little bit closer to the source material than the Rooster one. Seemed more of a, like maybe a little bit larger than life U.S. Marshal than it was actually portrayed in the book, which is fine. And also, I guess comparison wise, Glenn Campbell felt kind of stoic in this, but it was kind of fashionable to throw musical artists in films, to kind of splash a color and put something else on the marquee and stuff like that. But absolutely a great movie. One you can just watch time and time again. And it's funny because it's not like John Wayne brings some type of great gravitas of acting ability to any of his roles. He just shows up and plays John Wayne, but I love him. So I think that's what makes it great, And I think Duvall's great as Ned Pepper. Dennis Hopper plays Moon. I forget the gentleman's name who plays Tom Chaney. You guys remember that off the top of your head? He did a really good job. I mean, he did better than Josh Brolin, particularly for that anyway. So I really liked it. So I have True Grit here at number 4. I like my Westerns, and I knew it had to be right here in my top 5. So we're at number 3 now.
Holy cow.
Randy.
Interesting.
Well, number 3 is going to be by a director that you've heard me talk about before on our lists, and that's Jean-Pierre Melville. He had a movie out this year called Army of Shadows, which was a film about the resistance movement in France during World War II. And Melville actually served in the French Resistance back in his younger days. But this is a war film that's almost shot like it's a gangster film or like it's a film noir. And it was, even though it was in color, it had these blue, gray, and green hues. It was almost like it was a black and white film in some ways. But really love the cinematography in his films. And it's a film about really loyalty and betrayal. I mean, it's not a lot of action sequences, but in some ways, it's also about futility and that they were feeling at the time. And it's got, like I said, it's great cinematography, and it's very evocative, like most Melville films are. He was the king of genre pictures. And I really love the Italian actor. His name is Lino Ventura, who he actually grew up in France, is the main actor in this one. And I just thought he was magnificent in this one.
Army of Shadows by Melville. Perfect. All
That's
right.
I haven't seen that, so that's
I have not seen it. So now I got something I got to add.
Yeah,
I wrote it down too. So,
yep.
Doc, what do you got?
Well, like you, Brian, I also enjoy my Westerns. So, but maybe I just like a different kind of Western than you guys there. I don't know. I got the Wild Bunch at number 3 for me, man. So
there you go.
Yeah, this is a vicious Western flick, man. It's a Wild Bunch. This is William Holden, Ernest Borgnine, big Ernest Borgnine in some senses. Robert Ryan playing the guy who left and trying to stay out of jail and stuff like this. But I mean, the opening sequence all the way through to the whole movie, but This is just a dirty, nasty Western movie. And there's lots to like about it. It's like you're seeing William Holden, like in one sense, I grew up with William Holden later on, not at this time, but this is a different kind of character as far as I knew, even for them when I watched this for the first time. So William Holden is the bad guy, and like it's a dirty film, it's a nasty film, and these are killers. They are the Wild Bunch. This is money-driven cowboys, man. This is hooking up with the wrong guys, the Mexicans, the guns, and there's a whole bunch of things that go on in the movie, and it's a classic Western kind of one sense, but not really. It's really, this is a bloodfest in some senses too, especially for 1969, man. But it's a classic movie, classic Western. Wild Bunch, 1969. Just making my top 5, man, for sure.
Nice.
Yeah,
that's a great choice. Peckinpah.
You got it.
Yeah.
Very good.
Where, Rich? What do you got?
My number 3 is a film called Medium Cool. And this is a docudrama-esque kind of film where they put the actors in a particular scene in real-life situations, like the 1968 Democratic Convention in Chicago where the police brutality broke out. And there's a lead actress in here who's right in the middle of that. They filmed, I don't think they knew what they were getting into, but she's rolling around in this yellow dress, played by Verna Bloom. Robert Forster is a cameraman he's a TV news cameraman, and he's right in the middle of this as well. What's real, what's not. Very unique political film, and I really enjoy that kind of aspect to this film where they're shooting their own love story on one end and a mother raising a child on the other, and the relationship film. And all of a sudden, they're in the middle of the police brutality and the actual violence going on that happened in real life, and that's part of the film. So it's an interesting movie. It's directed by Haskell Wexler, who is a cinematographer who has done films like Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, In the Heat of the Night, The Thomas Crown Affair, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, Bound for Glory, Coming Home. He shot many of those films, and this time he's the director. He didn't have a lot of directorial things on his list of credits, but he's mainly a cinematographer who shot this. Turned out to be sort of a cult classic and another document of the late 60s, which I enjoy, much like Easy Rider, where you have that shoot on the run kind of style that Hopper did. And then now you got Haskell Wexler doing the same thing. And the ending is one of those classic 60 endings, a downer, and leaves you with your tongue hanging out at the end. So I really enjoyed the film. It's a tough watch maybe the first time, but if you give it a shot, you may enjoy it. Medium Cool, 1969, number 3.
Nice. I gotta check that out. Now I've got 2 I've got to watch.
Yeah. Didn't see it coming, Rich. You got me there, buddy.
That was the one that I talked about beforehand that I didn't think anybody else would have, but we still have a ways to go. We'll see.
Yeah. All right, I guess I'm going to be a little bit more traditional with my pick at number 3 then. I'm going to go ahead and put Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid here at number 3. Kind of like the consummate buddy Western film where you got the charismatic, Paul Newman, and then you got kind of the quiet, enigmatic Robert Redford's character, Sundance. And, they're bank robbers who are basically like, going through, and they're finding it tougher and tougher to actually score jobs. And one of the things I did like at the beginning is they have these weird sepia tones, and they're showing these old time, these almost like old Western style stuff from the 40s and stuff. And then it goes right into the movie, but the tones don't change all at once. It's not like the Wizard of Oz where you open up the door and suddenly it's colorful in the land of Oz. It's like the colors, the scheme started to change very slowly. Like the browns became more blues and reds and things like that. I thought was really interesting filmmaking. What I thought was tragic about the film it was the fact that when it seemed like they were finally starting to just be good guys. I mean, they were always good guys. They tried not to kill anybody, but as soon as they tried to live a legitimate life, that's when things went all to crap for them. So it's almost like they would have just been better off just to keep going the way they were. rather than try to turn the tide and be decent folks. And you can even see that dejected look in Newman's eyes afterwards, when they kill those individuals at the end of the film and stuff. It just seemed like there was a whole turn of his psyche going on there. So I like that film a lot. This didn't break into my top 2 for sure, but it's a classic film and one that I enjoy and I don't mind going back to revisit. So Butch Cassidy.
Nice
one. Well, I'm going to repeat. Yes, my number 2 is Butch Cassidy and the Sundance.
I figured people would have it higher. Yeah,
George Roy Hill, based loosely on the historical characters Robert Leroy Parker, Butch Cassidy, and Harry Longenbaugh, the Sundance Kid, but as sort of a humorous, romanticized version of their story, and a very entertaining one. Got a great cast: Paul Newman, Robert Redford, and Catherine Ross. And you mentioned the cinematography. Conrad Hall, which I've talked about before, and he would marry Catherine Ross. But so many great scenes, the continual use of who are those guys, deciding the rules of a knife fight, someone saying they can't swim before they jump off a cliff, and trying to learn Spanish and to rob a bank. It just has so many great little scenes that they put together. It's a great, I would call it a popcorn movie if you want to call it something. But and this is my number 2. Very entertaining.
Yeah. Perfect. Doc, what do you got for number 2?
Number 2, I got Midnight Cowboy at number 2. That's where I got that number 2.
Right.
Yeah, I can see how this could make people's list, not people's list, or very high or very low. I think the acting in this movie is superior. This is really well acted. Dennis Hoffman here is fantastic in this movie, and so is Jon Voight. And I know. We touched on it earlier. We guys talked about True Grit, John Wayne winning for Best Actor, I think, in the Oscars. And I think that's a little skewed, man. I think this is, I think Hoffman and Voight really are just a notch above in my eyes. That's my take. These are 2 lost souls, literally, that have run into each other and somewhat befriend each other. Jon Voight thinking he's going to be the Texas Playboy, going to New York to be some sort of male prostitute. Dustin Hoffman there as being, just a swindler, Sykester kind of guy that lives in New York, and just how their lives intertwined and stuff like that. It's a real well-told story, man. This is, to me, I would say, of all the things, this would be the film of 1969, and maybe not the movie, but the film of 1969. I think it's top tier kind of stuff, especially for the time. I can see that being groundbreaking and it pushes the edges in some senses, but that's where filmmaking was at that stage too. Midnight Cowboy, man, is a really good flick. That's my number 2.
There you go. Good choice.
Thank you.
My number 2 is one that was mentioned, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. My runner-up. I love the chemistry between Newman and Redford here. Catherine Ross, always great to look at. And like you guys mentioned, a buddy film, Western. The chemistry reigns supreme. I love the cinematography, too. That chase scene where they're trying to get them and run them into that cliff is fantastic. It goes on for a long time. I love the knife fight, too, or bring a gun to a knife fight kind of vibe with Lurch, or Ted Cassidy, the actor in there. Who played Lurch in the Addams Family. He's the bad guy in there. All-time classic. The film just oozes charisma and charm, along with being a great Western. It's got the humor in there and the romance. Popcorn film, like Randy said, is a good way to describe it. But it's held up over the years. I watched it recently, and it's still a great film. So my number 2, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid.
All right. My number 2, Doc has already mentioned. I've got Midnight Cowboy here. Really, really heavy film and like I think Rich has already kind of touched upon like the sadness of some of the 60s films and how they end and stuff. This is really a good movie about friendship. And Doc mentioned all the stuff about, Joe Buck and Ratso and their particular lives, one dealing with past trauma, one dealing with current sickness and illness that they're kind of dealing with, both trying to make it in a big city through various different swindles or whatever cons that they try to go on to just simply try to survive. And again, the heartbreaking ending at the end for anybody who doesn't know, they should watch the movie for sure. I believe at the time, guys, wasn't it the only film to ever be even nominated for NC with an NC-17 rating?
Yeah,
Never
rated
let
X.
go win.
It was an X back in those days. Yeah, it was X.
X back then. It's NC-17 by the
Yeah.
day standards, but it may even be an R by today's standards. But,
Probably.
yeah, but yeah, great movie, great film. One that I've seen many times. One just to watch it for enjoyment. One to kind of watch it to look for certain things. So, Midnight Cowboy is my number 2.
Yeah, buddy.
We're at number 1 already.
My number 1 is going to be the what I think is the Sam Peckinpah classic, and it's The Wild Bunch. I think this is his masterpiece. I heard one critic say that The Wild Bunch did not end the Western, but Peckinpah chiseled the gravestone, is what it said. But he changed the Western through the stylized violence, the slow motion photography. He brought realism to the genre, and it showed that violence is not pretty, and then it really showed in that movie. It's kind of a romantic tragedy, or a bromance tragedy, you might call it, about friendship and betrayal. Someone called it an epic about failure, which is kind of what it is. And then that's kind of shown in the end, where you see, later in the movie, where you see the automobile, and that kind of shows that's a symbol of progress that shows an end to their way of life. I just thought it was cinematic perfection, and I'm a big Peckinpah fan, and that's my number 1.
That's great.
Good call.
Good call. Doc, what about you for number 1?
Well, I'm sure this is a surprise to you guys there. You guys had it all floating around number 2s and stuff like that, but I got Butch Cassidy here, man. This is
nice.
I get to choose a flick in 1969 to put on, buddy. That's the one I'm putting on. That's the way it is. You want to be entertained. There's the free spirit of what the movie offers is just so enticing. And Newman and Redford are fantastic together. You see them again with George Rohill in The Sting. You see Newman again later on with George Rohill and Slapshot. So there's a chemistry here, and there's this is the ultimate buddy movie. This is a campiness and a popcorn flick, whatever you want to call it, in a lot of senses, with the Western. And Brian, I think you touched on it pretty good there. You think you've got everything turned around, and the one last thing, and get the hell out of this. And one too many sometimes, right? So
right,
it's almost like you're going to make it to Bolivia, but it's not the way it goes. Butch Cassidy is Sundance, man. Like I said, I have a choice to put on something of 1969. That's the flick I'm putting on, man. That's definitely my pick for 1969.
It's a good one. All of us.
Very good.
Yeah.
Is that so far the only one we've all had?
Yeah.
That's the only one we've all had so far.
I think that might hold up. My number 1 is Midnight Cowboy. Can't go against the acting here with Voight and Dustin Hoffman. Like Doc said, lost souls, misfits, whatever you want to call them. They're lost in the big city. They form a friendship. Dark, kind of depressing, touching portrait of these two guys surviving. Survival of the fittest in an urban setting, a decaying city at New York at that time. You can almost smell the filthy conditions of that tenement they're staying in. Everything's done right. The walls are filthy. They have this hot plate they're making soup on. It's just very, very down and depressing. But if you want acting at a top-notch level, these are the guys. Ratso Rizzo and Joe Buck, the characters' names, directed by an Englishman, John Schlesinger, who got the most out of these guys. You can argue that that's Dustin Hoffman's best performance ever in my book. It's right up there. And I like when they're invited to that Andy Warhol-esque kind of party.
Yeah.
They're picked out by these people. They look freakish enough. Let's put them in a setting with all these hippies and crazy people going on and film it. It's really cool. And then eventually Joe Buck, or John Voight in this case, meets Brenda Vaccaro, who takes his services on as a gigolo kind of thing. And it goes from there. Just really interesting. Dustin Hoffman falls down the steps. He's like near the end in that tragic bus ride.
Yeah.
Just I love the acting in this movie and the I wouldn't say the arc of the characters, but just their journey and the time you get to spend with them, with the tragic result. And I just want to say that 4 of my 5 films have either one or more of the lead characters dying at the end. So this is kind of one of them years where everybody bites the dust, they set you up. Here, come along for the ride. We're going to kill off the characters. That's the way they did it in the late 60s. So this is perfect for that. So my number 1 is easily Midnight Cowboy. Although Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid gave it a good shot, they're close.
Great. I'll remember that because, like, my wife says, I'm going to recommend this movie to Rich. I'm going to be like, did anybody die? And then she goes, no. I go, then Rich is not going to like it.
Very cool.
All right. My number 1, Randy's already touched on it. It's a classic in my eye, too, as a Western fan. I got Sam Peckinpah's The Wild Bunch here. One of my favorite lines from any movie was the line in which William Holden says, he says to Ernest Borgnine's character, he goes, we gave our word. And he said, that's not what counts. It's who you give it to. That's Borgnine's retort to him. And I think you summed it up where it's like this massive failure that ends up just being just almost tumbles further and further downhill, just kind of builds momentum to where the ultimate climax at the end, where they have this change of heart and change of conscience, and they go to do the right thing, even though they all know. They're looking at each other going, yeah, we're going to do this thing, and none of us are going to come back from this. And it's got the wild scene at the end, truly wild. I think I saw the same extras die like at least 3 or 4 times in various spots. You're going, yeah, I've seen that guy die before. It almost kind of reminded me, like later on, like directors like John Woo would kind of steal that type of stuff that was going on. Great. It's a great Western. It's a great movie. It had to be my number 1 for this year. It was automatically written down for me when it did. So that's what I got. So
very good.
Right on.
Well, how about some? This was a pretty strong year, I thought, guys. So how about like some honorable mentions? You guys got something here?
Oh, I have 3 that I wrote down as Take the Money and Run, Woody Allen. I didn't think it's quite as good as he would do later, but I thought it was very interesting, documentary style. Mississippi Mermaid, the Francois Truffaut movie, and Cactus Flower with Walter Matthau and Goldie Hawn.
Doc, you had anything?
I had The Italian Job, and just one that I like because of James Coburn there. I like Hard Contract too, man. That's just me. So
that's you, though. Yeah,
that's me.
The only one I had was The Wild Bunch, which you guys covered. It just got aced out by some of the other films I like better. I appreciate it, but it's not one that I return to that often. So I went with the stuff that I watch more often, and the other 5 fit that bill.
Yeah, I didn't really have any honorable mentions. Like I said, I wrote down the 5 immediately from that year. This kind of all stood out to me as them, and then everything else almost in my book.
Yeah,
just didn't have it otherwise. So
yeah,
but hey, this was fun. It was a good year, nice solid year. I know we're getting ready to hit the 70s, and the quality of films, the depth and breadth of films are going to kind of go way up here. A lot more stuff to choose from. So it'll be really, really, really interesting. I really appreciate you guys joining me again this week. Everybody out there, please like, sub, comment down below. Give us your top 5 movies. We're really interested to see. I've got 2 films that I've got to watch, one from Rich and one from Randy now, that I haven't even ever seen. So, I mean, this is the fun part about doing these things, is being exposed to new movies and getting some ideas. So that's kind of a great thing. Thank you, Doc, for joining us.
You got
Thanks, Rich. I really appreciate it. Randy, thank you very much, buddy. All right. Until next time, guys, we'll catch you when the year 1970 rolls around. Take care. Bye-bye.